Welcome to another episode of Alpha Intuition Podcast. We're going to help you guys crack that crazy girl code. I'm your host, Keisha, Blair, and joining me as always is a beautiful, insightful mind wellness coach, Essence Yarbrough.
What's up? How y'all doing? Glad to be here.
All right, guys, we are going to be talking about the same thing that we were talking about last week. I had a lot of people that kind of emailed me and wanted to know some more questions. They had a lot of questions on dating an alpha female. So last week, we kind of covered understanding her ambitions, communicating confidence, income differences, and also supporting her independence. So this week, we're just going to dive right into a few more topics. So we're going to go ahead and get started and jump right into our first topic that is going to be talking about power struggles in a relationship. Now, you
Yes.
guys already know when it comes to dating alpha female, it is inevitable that you're going to face some power dynamics. When you guys meet these alpha females, such as myself, you're intrigued by us and by our confidence and by us being a boss and how we handle our business. And then it's like, do you really think that that's going to change just because we start dating you? I mean, I'm just saying. So, Essence, what's your take on how men should manage a situation when they're dealing with power struggles in a relationship?
I mean, I think that's something that's pretty natural. Power struggles really, it's kind of normal. It's expected between two leading personalities, but it doesn't be. I think that people, the more that they can understand that it's not a competition, instead of it being a competition, to be honest with you, they could look at each other as just having certain strengths. And if they can understand that about one another, they could have an amazing, beautiful power dynamic together, like as a power couple instead of a power struggle. So yeah, that's my take on that. They just have to find that middle ground.
Yeah. So sometimes that middle ground is always communication because, communication is critical. And it's like, for them to just to discuss basically what that middle ground is. And like, just talk about just the balance between both of their relationships. Like, if a woman is better at organizing and planning, then, the man, you just need to let her lead in those areas. And if the man is better at handling finances, then that should be, and if that's your wheelhouse, then it's totally okay. I mean, I have no problem with letting a man handle all the finances if he's stronger at doing that than me. But I mean, it's all about playing each other's strengths and not trying to make sure that you act like it's a competition because you're letting your egos get in the way.
Right. And the thing is that people mistake giving each other the lead as like just giving in, like a compromise that's negative. Like, you know what I mean? Like looking at compromise as a negative as opposed to looking at it as wisdom. And if you're like on the job or something, it can't be two people doing one thing, but you do have a variety of people doing their own thing that equal out to the same vision. And if people can understand that, they can really learn to just build a respect for each other. And when they have that balance, then they're able to still freely move in that, and they don't, because to me, people shouldn't feel like they have to pull themselves back, you know what I mean, like hold back, in a relationship. They should just be
Yeah.
free to be who they are, and if that is a leading person, just have the understanding of where you lead best.
Exactly. So that kind of reminds me of this bumper sticker that I saw on the back of somebody's car. And I don't know, I think I mentioned this last time, but it said, I think, therefore I'm single. So, I have my own brain. I got my own thoughts. And just because I think, that doesn't mean that I'm going to make a man be any less than who he is as a person.
Mhm.
And as a woman who respects her man for who he is, it's like I'm not going to try to emasculate him or bring him down because he knows certain things or he doesn't. So, like you said, it's just all about compromise. And just because you give into a person's ways doesn't mean that you're settling, or doesn't mean that you're giving in. That's not what that
Mhm.
means.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times people struggle with understanding each other's needs. If we when we go into a relationship, sometimes we're going into certain areas where we don't understand what we necessarily want. We'll go into a relationship and we're seeing, we see somebody that's got this powerful personality, right? And like you
Mhm.
were saying before, people don't understand how they fit into that, and so therefore it can be a little uneasy for them. But I think, ultimately, as long as people can pull back in the sense of not losing themselves but the ego, like you mentioned before, something can get figured out.
Yeah.
Period. Something can get
So
figured out.
look, that just reminds me of a time when I went on a date with someone, and I was driving, and of course the person had his own car, but I just chose to drive. I think it may have been his birthday or something, but I was taking him out, and we were going to this really nice place for brunch, right? And I mean, it was probably like, I don't know, maybe like $100 per person. And as I got ready to park, he was just like, "No, don't park right here. Park right there. Park." Trying to tell me where to park. So after he
Mhm.
tried to tell me a couple of turns, and it was like we got lost. It was just like, "Oh, oh, all right, look, this thing that I got inside my head is called a brain. It actually works, and I know how to use it. So why don't you just do me a favor and just kind of sit back and let somebody be nice to you for once? You don't even have to tell me what to do because I already know what to do." And then he was like, "Well,
Right.
I was just trying to save us some money parking." And I said, I'm about to go in here and spend $100 a person. Do you really think I'm concerned about $8
That's
for
the
parking?
point.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
it was just like in that
Right.
moment, and I think some men are just so used to trying to take control when sometimes there's not even a need to take control. It's like, when the same strong person that you saw that attracted you to her, I'm still that same person even when we enter into a relationship.
Yeah. I I feel like no matter how much we express that to a man,
It
sometimes I
don't
feel like
matter.
it don't matter. Yep,
Okay.
that's how I be feeling. And you know what I mean? It's like they just don't, they be on their own thing. It's like if we are in our vibe and that's how we're used to moving,
Yeah.
imagine how much more for a man with that testosterone. They just accustomed to that. And so I just don't even try. Well, I don't intentionally try to buck up against that. But what I do
Mhm.
find, like even my mother had pointed out something. There was one of our family members. He was just trying to put in a light bulb, trying to help me put in a light bulb. And I'm like, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it.
It's like
Like I'm do it. And my mom was like, Essence, it was something as simple as a light bulb. You could have just let him do the light bulb. But I'm thinking, well, this is something as simple as a light bulb. I can handle a light bulb, right? But instead, it's the whole idea of just sitting back. But yeah, at what point, like I feel like it's ego then for the man to step in when he's just like, hey, trying to tell you where to park just to save $8. You know what I mean? But
Well,
I
I'm
think
gonna
as
say,
people get to
I
know
mean,
each other,
I should have said, you know what? I really appreciate you thinking about, saving me $8. But at this point,
exactly.
I just don't really want you to have to walk that far. So I'm gonna park a little bit closer and I'm not even gonna worry about the $8. But I didn't respond that way. I was younger then, so I probably could have tailored my response to be a little bit more welcoming to him because, now that I'm older, I do think about that when I respond to men. And it's not, I think back then it was just
Mhm.
like, dude, really? It was, where now it's just like I try to think about how not to offend the man that I'm with because ultimately if this is the person that I want to be with and
Yeah.
the man that I want to spend my life with, I don't want to do things that are going to shatter his ego or make him feel a certain way because of who I am as a person. So it's just me, it's just about me having mutual respect for him, and I want him to treat me a certain way, and I want him to treat me a certain way, and I try to treat him a certain way. So that kind of segues into our next topic, which
Yeah.
is, the importance of mutual respect and partnership. So, Essence, let's talk
Mhm.
about why it's so critical when dating an alpha female that we have that mutual respect in a partnership.
If you don't have respect, you don't have communication. The
Mm,
communication is going to be all off. And then, which it's like a whole circle because you need the communication in order to learn how to garner the respect for each other as well. I don't know. I feel like what do you think in the beginning? Do you think that it's hard for people to read each other, like they misread each other, and that's what causes the bumping of the heads?
nope, that's not what I think. So what I think is that first of all, is I think that in the beginning, like I said, men are very intrigued by alpha female, and I'm gonna say this. I really hate that term. So I'm just gonna say men are kind of really intrigued by a strong, independent woman, and because when you walk up on a woman and she's got her her ish together and she's handling her business, she may be the boss or own her own company or whatever may be going on with her, that is very intriguing to a man. So I think that somewhere along the way, at that moment, their ego is not even coming into play. I think somewhere along the way, during certain conversations, their egos come into play, and that's when you have that different dynamic to where they start thinking about, okay, well, how should I respond to this person? Because it's more so of like, this person may be at a different level than what I'm at.
Right.
So I want to ask you a question. So have you ever dated someone that maybe became disrespectful towards you?
Yeah.
That that maybe necessarily didn't start out that way because they were
Nope.
intrigued by you in the beginning, and then it ended up, and it's like, where did this come from? Because this is not the same person that I met.
Yeah. That definitely happened, opening the doors for me.
Mm-hmm.
I could do no wrong. I was the most beautiful woman in the world. Like it was just like, oh shoot. I mean, but not to the point of like gassing me. Not like, you know what I mean? It was, very respectful, no red flags. And then it just turned into control. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not even trying to have control of this. Like, what you talking about? Like, but it turned into, but let me say this. It was actually, and he was a really nice guy. But what ended up happening was that he actually had some hidden issues that he was not being upfront and honest about. And that had influenced how he had begun to treat me because he was deflecting to hide, like he didn't want me finding out certain things. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't, I don't think, more about, leadership. It was just more so about, now my leadership has to turn into control because I have to control the narrative so that you don't think or see the worst of me. You know what I mean? And it could have been something that we could have actually worked out, but because of how he ended up responding to certain things or acting to certain things, and then it turned really bad actually. And yeah, so it did change. The respect did change. It went from losing the respect, not necessarily for who I was, but trying so hard to hold on to who I was, that he lost, respect in his actions, his behaviors. His words would say one thing, but then it's like,
Didn't line up.
it'll be my way.
So let me ask you this question. So how did you feel about how did your respect for him, did it change? Did it stay the same? Or like, how did you feel towards him when he started doing that?
You know what? That's a really great question because Keisha, I actually still respected him, and
Yeah.
it ended on a
Mm-hmm.
positive note. But I think maybe that's just due to the because how I am. It's like, why let it get worse if it doesn't have to? It's like, okay, we all have our problems. I'm serious, girl. That's a man at the same time. I'm not trying to escalate nothing. You hear
Yeah,
what I'm saying? So I'm
exactly.
I'm I'm gonna look at the wisdom of it and say, okay, well, it just didn't work. It's not working. It didn't work. And then I was just happy to move on,
Mhm.
and that's just how it was. We left amicably and kept it moving.
So I think at some point in the relationship, it really gets to a point to where the guys start feeling intimidated by that woman because of her success, because of her ambition, because of who she is. And it's no slight to them, but it's just like how they're slighting their own selves about where they are in life. And so therefore, it's like almost like human nature to where you just want to start tearing this person down. You're trying to
Right.
bring them down to your level as opposed to you trying to rise to their level, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. And girl, it just reminds me of a situation I had with somebody that that I really, really thought had a lot of respect for me. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, this person just started saying certain things and started doing, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. It's like, I don't tolerate that type of behavior. Like, what's going on? Let's talk about it. I'm trying to really get to the root of the problem. And the person
Right.
just chose to just still be toxic. Of course, I had to end the relationship, but it was just more so like, somebody I really liked. And why did it have to go there? Was it all because you were intimidated by me? Of course, he's not going to say
Mhm.
yes to that, but in my mind, that's kind of what I thought. And it was just an unfortunate situation because, like, I never really, I really respected this person a whole bunch, and I had no understanding why he felt like he had to disrespect me.
Yeah, I had a relationship where it wasn't because the previous person I just mentioned, he had turned physically violent, right?
Mhm.
Um, this other person, gosh, no physical violence at all. I mean, oh my gosh, like an amazing person. But due to them not really knowing me, and due to their, you know how some men, the one thing we love about men is that strength, right? They have that
Mm,
strength. They
yeah.
don't have to share everything that's going on in their head. They just activate, they just do. Gosh, he had all of that. But sometimes the downside to that, when you don't verbally communicate and you're not vulnerable with each other,
Mm,
you end up being blamed for things, and you see each other in ways that are not true. It's not based on fact, it's based on fears of what could go wrong, what could happen. And so this particular person ended up disrespecting me, calling me, basically treating me as somebody that he thought that I was, because I was so busy working. And so therefore he thought that I was in other activities, and then ended up blaming me for something that I had no kind of, like, he was way in left field, and I'm like, huh? So
mm,
yeah, and that did hurt, because I literally have the utmost respect for that person, and I still respect that
mm.
person. I do understand that, okay, it's just not an alignment. It's not a match, and you have to just keep it moving, because when you see that person doesn't want to readjust, they don't want to shift that line of thinking, because it's safer for them. It feels safer for them to assume, no, that person is going to do me like this, and therefore I'm going to
Mm.
treat that. So that sucks. You know what I mean?
So, where do you think that behavior comes from? Do you think it's more so of them maybe feeling like they're losing their stance as far as being in charge of the relationship?
For some men, maybe. I
Mm,
really don't know. I just know that for myself, I've really had to check. I just know I be having to check myself, Keisha, because I have been alone, for so long. I do have ways that I'm not used to a man being around like that, and I am a mother, and I do have to check that myself. And so sometimes what I have done, I have mistaken a man for trying to be controlling, when really it was me just not relinquishing
oh,
space for that man.
wow, that was deep right there.
I
Yeah,
had
I
to
didn't even
check that.
think about that. So you said basically it's not really him being controlling, but you not really wanting to invite him into your space because of what you had going on.
Right. You get comfortable in that, and then you do it without thinking.
Mm,
I was doing it without thinking. You know what I mean? I'm just like, so what can happen is that sometimes, as women, I think we have to watch this, men, hear this out. Sometimes, because when we've been alone for so long, we have a tendency to not see ourselves as other people might see us, as men might see us. And therefore, we're good women because we're handling our business, we're doing what we have to do. But on the flip side, what's going on is that we are pushing men away and
mhm.
not realizing it. And what happens is that those men change their behaviors towards us. Whereas before, in the beginning, they wanted to give us the world. Now they feel like, I'm gonna give it to her. She don't know how to
You
receive
don't
it.
need it.
She don't need it.
Yeah,
You don't need me there. You don't need my, what do you need
yeah.
me for then? You got it. And it can change how a man treats a woman that he really likes. And it takes away
Mm,
some of the sparkle and the shine, that a woman walks into a room with when he's first seeing her, like, woo, and then it takes away some of that for him to kind of unwrap that sparkly new gift. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
exactly.
she's unwrapping herself. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
because that new car smell only lasts for so long,
Right.
before, like,
Right.
you start getting into the meat and potatoes of the relationship and you start unraveling and start unwrapping who the person truly is. And
Yeah.
sometimes it
And it's
may
tough
not
to
be
find.
what you thought, it may not be what you thought you had. And,
Mm,
some people decide
okay.
to bail, some people decide to stay because at that point, most of the time, usually when it gets to that point, women have more than likely fallen in love. And the man is just like, nah, I'm out because I'm not willing to deal with this. Especially when you have somebody who treats you like, well, a woman who treats a man like she doesn't need him for anything. Because
Right.
no matter what, like, even if you know how to do it, it's okay to let him do it. Just because you can do it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. Because I mean, men, they want to feel like they're wanted. They want to feel like they're needed in every situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just ask that men and I do believe men do give grace to women. I really do
Only
believe
in the
that men
beginning,
give.
girl.
Yes, I do believe it's that. But then, have you ever seen those relationships where they've been together and it's like he might roll his eyes sometimes.
Well,
You know what
that's
I mean?
medicine love. That's totally different. So you have two
Yeah,
situations where a man will give grace. It's when he really, really likes a woman in the beginning and once he's fallen in love with her. That in between,
yeah,
before he gets to the point to where he decides he's going to fall in love with her, he's going to bail if he feel like this woman is not for him. So in the beginning, yes, because they still in that what I like to call caveman mode. You just see woman, you trying to get what you want, and then once you
right.
get past that point to where you get to know that woman, if you decide that, okay, this is the one for me and I want to fall in love with her, then yes, they will give that woman grace. But in that between stage, if he don't feel like he's ready to get to that point to where he's gonna fall in love with her, oh no, she's out.
Right, girl. That right there, everything you just said, right there.
And I know I
I
said
need
it
to.
kind of fast. Look, y'all might have to take this video and put it on and slow it down because I get in my
You
groove and
know,
I start talking fast.
look, Keisha, you said that thing perfect. No, you said that thing perfect because at the end of the day, oh, and then that's the other thing. That's the other thing. We're talking about mutual respect and partnership. One of the things that I have heard men say is that they don't like the word partnership.
Mm.
It's like because to them it makes them think that they're about to have a power struggle
So in what
or like
in what context though? I've never heard guys say that, but so what context have you heard them say that in?
this is only recent. And I'm like,
I've
really? And
never
they're like,
heard that.
yeah, because I don't know what I'm going to get when you're saying partnership. It's like, like this is the guy that is, I'm more of the, we don't need to do the 50-50. Let me take the lead. Not like egotistical, not negative, but just concerned that she's going to be getting her feminist mode. It's not like I'm not saying that they're valid in that. I think that people just create their own culture around words, their own ideas around words.
Mm.
And it's become, oftentimes you hear women talking about partnership and it's kind of connected to a feminist ideology sometimes. And I don't mean the positive feminism. I mean the feminism that, like a friend of mine says, he says,
Yeah.
feminism is great until it stops me from acting as the man I want to be in the
I don't,
relationship.
I'm not a feminist. I'm never gonna call myself that, but that's just
Yeah, me
me.
either.
I
Me
don't
either.
believe in
But
that.
there are women out there.
Yeah,
There
I'm
are
sure
women out
that
there.
that's why
Yeah,
this podcast is for men. You
yeah,
know, even though I know I
yeah,
have some female listeners, but it's like I try
yeah,
to tailor my content to men because I'm not a feminist, and I and I know that
yeah.
just the male thought and how what they believe is very important to me in being an alpha female. I even tread lightly when I speak to most guys because I want to make sure that I don't offend them, that what I say to them is very welcoming because I don't want to come across as aggressive or rude or strong or anything like that. At work, yes, that's one thing, but when you're dealing in a relationship, it's okay to take the back seat 100% because I feel like a man's role is to always lead. And if you feel like you got a man that's not going to lead you in the right direction, then you just made a bad selection. That's not the man that you should be following. If you don't feel like if you got to tell him what to do all the time, I don't want a man I got to tell what to do. I want a man that can tell me what to do so that he can tell me what to do.
So you could tell me what to do.
That's right.
Yeah. Tell me what to do so you can tell me what to
But
do.
look, but ultimately, so
I'll
look,
never forget that. That was a good one.
when both partners have respect for each other, it just creates a solid partnership, and each person feels valued and supported. And it's not about
Mhm.
who's in charge of who. It's just about working together to, because you have one common goal, and just to show appreciation for each other for your efforts, and that just creates a stronger bond.
Well, yeah. And I mean, just providing support for each other. Period.
Absolutely.
Find ways to find support. I believe that the more people just decide, hey, I want to find a way to support this person. If you come in with a service attitude, both parties, and you're both leaders at the same time, you'll understand that, okay, this person is not trying to control me. They just really want to please me. I want to please them, and we're gonna fit. It makes it more lighthearted when you know that somebody is in it to serve you, and you have to make sure that you're providing that with a person that's ready to receive. I think there is a bit of a downfall sometimes that comes with always being the one that you have to, like, I'm used to being the one that everybody leans on, or I'm used to being the one that's always initiating everything. I'm used to, when you're accustomed to that, there can be a downside, because then it makes it hard for you to receive help. It makes it hard for you to recognize when people are just trying to truly be there for you, and you make that space for that person. It really can make a big deal, and it can almost, you can make that person feel like they're not being valued with what they're bringing, and they put pride in what they bring. So
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
I think for some women it's like, well, for I'm going to speak for myself, right? To where it's it's hard for me to accept help from people, and it has nothing to do with them. It really has to do
Mhm.
with the things that have happened to me in my past, because I've had people to let me down and did not follow through with what they
Right.
said they were going to help me with. So in those situations, it's like, no, I got it. And it's not like I don't trust them, but it's just like this is something that's
Mhm.
very important to me. And if you drop the ball, I'm gonna look bad. So therefore, I don't feel comfortable putting this in someone else's hands. So therefore, I'm just gonna take care of it. And I think sometimes that bruises the male ego when we act like that.
I think it's actually good for business. I think that is a great, we have to be like that in
At
business,
work,
right?
right?
Work is wonderful. But what I have learned is that in relationships, what that sends the message of is, I just don't trust you.
Oh, girl, yes, 100%. Because that's exactly what I've heard. It's just like,
Yeah.
you have a problem with trust. And I was like, no, I don't. It's like,
Yeah.
but ultimately, yes,
Right.
that's exactly what it is, that I'm saying that I don't trust that person. But it's not because they did something, it's because someone else in my past did something. And what I'm doing basically is I'm charging you with somebody else's crime. And that's
Right.
not
And
fair to them.
that's so hard, because nobody likes being on the other end of that. And we've all kind of done it, I believe. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I know I've done it. I just speak for me, right? I've
Yeah.
done that also. And that can be a problem. But at the same, again, it goes back to communication. And I just don't believe there are a lot of people that learn how to make space for communication, and that grace to understand, each other. But I do believe that it starts when you just recognize, let me support this person emotionally how I can. I'm deciding to show up here.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that both parties are going to do everything right. You know what I mean? But just feeling it out.
Well, I mean, and even though when you support somebody emotionally, there's so many things that you can do, because person been at work all day, you've gone through a lot of stuff, and if you come home, you just want to just unload to your partner and just share things, like,
Mhm,
and if you did something great and you didn't get that praise in work, you just want, just to share that moment with
mhm,
your partner and like to have them praise you and support you. So
mhm.
just like men want us to recognize their achievements, women, we kind of want the same thing, and we want to make sure that we're supported in what we do and in our achievements. And it just makes a huge difference, I think, on both sides of the relationship. And it just and just reinforces the idea that we're a team, right? And that working
Right.
together, rather than against each other. And that, we should just both start doing the same for each other to make sure that we support each other in anything that we have going on. And that'll just make the relationship that much stronger.
Do you think it's hard to just have what you just said? Do you think it's just hard for people to have that conversation and clarity that they provide? Or do you think that people might even say that stuff, but then their habits kick in and they still do the opposite?
Well, when
Like,
when
that's
it's a
my
power
intention to
struggle,
do
like
that.
our last topic, when it's a power struggle, yeah, because it's almost like if you are more vested in your ego and trying to think of you don't want to uplift this person, because the higher you lift them up, the lower you feel, then yeah, then there's going to be a power struggle in that dynamic. But ultimately, so I heard a married couple say that every day they wake up to make the other person happy. And if you
I
wake
love
up and
that.
that's your common goal to make the other person happy, you guys will never have an unhappy day.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna confess something right here on the show. Oh my
Uh-oh,
gosh. I
wait
hope
a minute.
nobody
Hold
holds
on
this
now.
against me. When I don't have a person in mind, I have a reservation about that.
Mm,
Do I feel like making somebody else happy? Can't believe I said that. Like, that does not sound good.
you
You know what I
don't, because I
mean?
make every girl. I love to see people happy. I just
I
do. That's kind of like
I'm not
I like
saying
to
I
put a
don't.
smile on people's face.
Let me tell you something. I think it is a previous relationship that this is what, because I've never said this before, but I was in a relationship
You
that
hating on
drove me
folks,
so
girl.
much. Let me tell you, as much as I did for this man, right? And he did things for me, right? But so I didn't see a problem. But no
Mm,
matter what I did, he still wanted more. And I'm
mm.
like, I'm working 10 and 12-hour days. I'm still doing this, that, with a smile. And you're like, well, you're not da 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 da. I'm like, whoa. So that's a trigger
That's him
for
tearing you
me.
down, though. So it's
Right. So
yeah,
that's the thing that
not cool.
that wasn't like that in the beginning. And so I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So I have this thing where it's like, okay, the guy's gonna start off fine and then kind of give one of those lines like, as long as you stay looking that good, we ain't gonna have no problems, right? Like
Huh?
I feel like he'll, I have this concern that he'll turn into that guy, right?
Girl, I ain't
While
gonna
you
lie to
doing
you.
this,
Every
but
guy is that guy. You can act
woo,
like it ain't true, but we already know men are visual. And I'm sorry, look, I done lost
oh
49
yeah.
pounds and I'm trying to lose about 40 more because I know they visual, right? And I ain't trying to be single for the rest of my life. So yes, it is important for you to look good all the time. Don't no man want no bride that don't look pretty. I mean, that's
That's not what
in
I'm
his
talking.
now beauty is in the eye of the beholder 100%. But whatever
Yeah,
you got to keep it up. And then
I'm
you can't be
talking.
sitting up here. Well, listen, no, you can't be
Mhm.
sitting up here talking about your man cheating on you, and then you look like ain't no who did it before. Ain't trying to nobody do you no more.
Keisha,
I'm just
you
saying.
know, no, I agree with that. I'm talking about this was abnormal. It was, I want you sweeping and cleaning the house in lingerie and heels all the time. I want you going out of the house. Yeah,
Girl,
he
look,
had,
wait.
he,
How much money was he making? Because look, if he was trying, I ain't gonna,
no, at the,
look, get the red bottoms, baby. Go on, give me that broom. I ain't gonna lie. I sweep all you want me to. Can I?
at
Can look,
this
I ain't had
point,
no
it was
problem with
less
it.
than, at this point, it wasn't even 50-50. I was doing my thing at the time, and
Well,
he was telling me this.
well, if he was handling
So,
his business at the house and he was making sure that you didn't have to do nothing else, and that's all he wanted you to do, and all your needs was met.
no,
Oh, well, that's
no,
different
that
now.
wasn't
You
the case at all.
sweep your own
Yeah,
floor.
that's what I'm
Sweep
that's
your
what I'm saying was that, and just without, and that's the thing. So like when you asked before, like, did you lose respect for that person? No, I didn't. But what it was like, okay, what's something else is going on? I could see that there was no, 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 no. Let me stop. Let me stop. There was a lack of trust that started creeping in, that I
mm,
couldn't trust this man to be who he had been with me. And so now I'm like, what's this extra stuff that we're doing here? What is this? I couldn't make it out. And therefore, I started pulling back because I
mm.
was like, what is this where you are all of a sudden, I'm giving 10%, 10%, I'm giving 10 out of 10, but in your eyes, that 10 is more like a 4.
No, I probably
You see
wasn't.
what I
He
mean?
probably knew you was giving. He probably knew you was giving 10. He was just treating it like a 4 because he wanted you to still keep giving it. So there
And
is a
that's
difference.
what
Yeah,
and that is
he
what I
was
have
giving
seen
10.
that happen before. And that's what I felt was starting to happen. And I said, oh, okay.
So let me ask you this
So
question. So were you making more money than him at that point?
yeah, at that point, yeah.
So that's going to take me right into my next topic, which is we're going to address this common concern, which is how women feel about dating a man who makes more money than them. I'm sorry, dating a man who makes less money than them. Because,
Mm,
we already know that can be a sensitive topic when it comes to men, right? But it's important to
mhm,
understand the dynamics at play because, women, we don't have a problem with it, but some guys do. So, like, I
mhm.
want you to continue on with your story and talk about it from the standpoint of just the income difference dynamic.
Yeah, he didn't talk about it. And I think that a lot of guys, they don't talk about it. We see the behaviors change. We see them having their own struggle and kind of taking it out on us. And I believe that this is a reason why I do have now this idea of, no, I think I need the guy. He doesn't have to make all that in a bag of chips at all. It's more so the mindset that he has. Does he have a winning mindset? Does he
Mhm.
have a mindset that is healthy? Does he have a positive, outlook on life? Because when he's like that, when these ups and downs come, because people lose jobs, people get jobs, people make less, people get promoted, people, you see what I mean? So are you the same man? Is your integrity and character still going to show and prove? Because that's what I'm ultimately going to be attracted to. So when I see a shift in your integrity, a shift in how you treat me, and you go downhill, or all of a sudden you're projecting things onto me that I know that I'm not, because it's helping you to, I'm going to assume that it's to help you to feel better, or to kind of keep me in a place, so that you feel like
No.
I'm not going to rise above you. Like, that's a problem. And
Yeah.
men have to really work on that, because that is a real thing. And I'm not an insecure woman. I'm not a woman also that's not going to be quick to look and say, oh, he ain't doing this, or he ain't do. I'm
But
not
you
that,
but
like,
you
or
have
he
to
ain't making that.
you have
What?
to
But
realize in that moment that that don't have nothing to do with you. It's
it
really not
doesn't.
it's really not about you and how much you're making. It's about him and how much he's not making. Because if he's not at a point to where he wants to be in his life, and he's not happy with who he is, what he has, and how much money he makes, he's never going to be able to make you happy. He's never going to be able to do anything for you because he's not
Exactly.
happy with who he is. So if a man tears you down because of how much money you make, it has nothing to do with you. It's really all about what he's dealing with inside of him. But he's not going to express that. He's not going to tell you that. What he's going to do is going to come out as trying to attack you for who you are as a person. Instead of, he's going to tear you down instead of trying to uplift you. And it's like most men don't even realize it. We don't care. When we find somebody that we're into and that we like, we could care less. And you're now, as long as you ain't trying to ask, like I mentioned this last week, right? As long as you ain't trying to get us to pay your bills for you, we could care less about how much money you make. If you are financially stable
Right.
and you're comfortable with where you are, then we really value that emotional support and that respect far more than we value the income disparity.
Right. Right. And I, you know, and then just having confidence in who he is
Well,
makes a big difference.
well,
But
they had all
also,
that
here's the
confidence in
thing.
the world when they approached you, when they knew you was the boss.
No, I
What,
mean
what they
confidence
thought
in
you
their
was making
character.
minimum wage? No.
That's too funny. Right, right, right. But no, confidence in their character, right? Confidence in their character, but in
Yeah.
their integrity. But here's the thing. I really want men to also consider this. That when, because I hear a lot of men being discouraged, saying, the world kind of teaches me that I don't have value unless I'm bringing money, right? I don't have value unless I'm the provider. I don't have value unless I bring something to you, right? And I'm not going to make this any type of an argument. What I want to
Get off
say
the
though is that
internet.
also, yeah, also consider that sometimes women, you might hear them crying about money, right? You got to make this, you got to make that. What they're really saying is, it's for some women, I can't speak for
Like I
all,
said, we talking
but
about
some
alpha
women are,
females. We got money. We ain't worried about no money.
right. Well, just yes, yes. And in general, but also the alpha woman, it's going to be, yeah, you can have some money, but if you don't have the character, if you don't have the
Mhm.
mindset, if you don't have that get up and go about you, that's making, because that's the stuff that really helps us to feel secure emotionally with a man. It's about who you are. It's your essence. It's not just the money that you're bringing. So, but what we know is that if a man, typically because of how y'all feel, for men, if men typically are not getting the money that they desire, they feel some type of way about themselves. I hear men say, younger and older, they say, I'm not in a position to be with the woman right now. So they'll just go off, kind of screw around, play around, be in situationships. I'm not happy with where I am, to where I feel like I can be the provider and the man that I really want to be, that I see
And that's
myself to
okay.
be.
I
And that's
appreciate
okay.
that 100%. Yeah, because
Don't
I
be
don't need
trying to
you
like
coming and
put
bringing
game on
all that
women. Now
drama
be
to me.
aware.
Don't bring all that
Right.
drama to me when you're not happy with who you are. Go fix yourself. Go take the time to make sure that you like you before you try to get with somebody else that you want to like you. So I'm 100%
Exactly.
on board with that. But when it comes to income differences, really, it's just really all about communicating openly about financial expectations and contributions. And it's like I wouldn't really try to have that conversation on a first date or nothing like that.
Right.
But if people in a relationship, if you decide, if you guys grow and you decide that, you're going to move in together or you're going to get serious, that's definitely a conversation that needs to be had before you guys
Mhm.
decide that you're going to be exclusive. And as far as you said about being confident, it was like, man, just be confident in what you bring to the relationship, because there's so
Mhm.
much more that you can add to the relationship than just finances. I mean, whether
Yep.
it's emotional
Oh my God.
support or shared responsibilities or simply just being a loving and present partner, all of those attributes are
Mhm.
extremely important in a
Yeah.
relationship, no matter who makes the most money.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Because just focus on the communication,
Mm,
keeping the confidence level up. Don't
mm,
let insecurities creep in, and then
mm,
don't let the boogeyman effect take hold of you. Where you start having all these negative thoughts about your partner,
mm.
thinking that they around men that got more money than
Yeah,
you or
that's just
anything like that.
insecurity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
keep the communication up, and you have to also make sure that you're with a woman that you can be vulnerable with by the time you're in a relationship with her. I'm just saying. I know men don't like to
Yeah.
express certain things, and it's just certain things we ain't never gonna hear from certain men, from certain alpha men. They not gonna tell us certain things. That's why you have to be all the more responsible within yourself about how you really feel about something, and if you are in fact dealing with some insecurities, you got to be real with yourself.
So
Like
it's
it's
like,
serious.
well, so men, it's like, we just basically what you just said is like, we just need to talk about how do you support your partner without losing yourself,
Losing
right?
yourself.
It's like,
Yeah.
so, and then this can be like a tricky balance. I mean, especially when dating someone who is very driven and very independent and has their own stuff. And like, honestly, 100%, we really like, as far as taking care of ourselves, we don't really need a man for that. Now, as far as companionship and having a relationship, yes, we do. So, from that aspect and how men can support a woman without losing themselves, what advice do you have for our listeners on that?
They got to maintain their own identity for one, and then just look for ways to like support her ambitions as well as your own. Like you can't lose sight of who you are. You can't lose sight of your goals. You have to make sure that you have a plan for your life, because the more solid your plan is as a man, the more confident you come off, right? And the more we see you executing that, the more attractive you look to us. You know what I mean? And so, but at the same time, still finding time to support what that woman's goals and ambitions are, and
Mhm.
taking time to notice that increases intimacy in a powerful relationship like that. For example, I had my daughter, real quick, my daughter was just like, she called me the other day and was like, Mom, and she's laughing. She was like, it's so cute. Her little crush, her little boy crush was just like, oh, he asked me like what, my ambitions were and da 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 da. And I was telling him, and he was like, oh wow, can I tag along? And I said, what'd you tell him? And so she had messaged him and was like, as long as you have your own thing too, then we're good. Like,
Yeah.
sure, you can support me, but you have to have your own vision as well.
And
That's
this is the thing.
11:30.
So, and there's a fine balance between that, because we do want a man that's going to be supportive. But it's
Yes,
like
we do.
not too supportive. But that's like, when you're dealing with men, right? They want a woman that's going to spend time with them, but not too much time. So both people just have to make sure that you got other stuff going on outside the relationship. You're not being
Yeah.
too clingy, because I don't care if you're man or woman. Don't nobody want no clingy person around them all the time. Because
Mhm.
if you up under me all the time, or if I'm up under you, ain't nobody making no money. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's like you got to
That's
make sure that you find that balance. You got to make sure you find that balance, because you don't want to lose yourself in him, and he, guys, you definitely don't want to lose yourself in a woman, because trust me, she ain't gonna. We don't want no man like that. Just really don't. Mm-mm.
yeah. Yeah. And that's so funny because you took the words out of my mouth because you know, you know, yeah, somebody got to be making the money. And so when both people are making money, whether it's a little or a lot, more or less, it doesn't matter. Finding the time to actually schedule is
Mhm.
important. Finding the time, making the time, prioritizing that time with each other, that alone sends a message of I care. That
Yeah,
alone sends a huge message. So
so
I
this
think
about
that
look, this about independence, not codependence, for real.
well, it's what is it? Interdependence in a sense.
Yeah,
You're
there you go. I like
you're
that
being
phrase.
yeah,
Mhm.
you're being interdependent.
It's like
You
a
we
two-way
are.
street.
It is. It really is. It's a two-way street. And it's just at the end of the day, you still want to have your own hobbies. You want to have your own
Mhm.
interests because that actually allows a person into your life. Oh, they like that. Oh, they like this. And it gives them more insight on how to make each other happy. So that's why it's important that we have our own hobbies, our own interests, our own um, you know, lifestyles that,
Mhm.
prior to that person coming in, they want to know that they're coming into something, but also that they know that that person, they can learn that that person is dedicated to entering into their lives as well.
Yeah.
It's yeah, that way you're not feeling like you're losing yourselves. How many people, Keisha, have left out of a marriage, especially if the mom left with the kids, right? And she's like, who who am I? I've been a mom, I've been a wife. Who am I? It's like they
Mhm.
lost all sense of self. And that's why a lot of feminists are like, I don't want to get married. I want to,
Well,
I
that's
mean, I
on
don't
them
even
because I do 100%. I'm never gonna say that because, like I say,
girl,
I
I'm
love
telling
men. Yeah,
you.
they can't do nothing for me. But one thing that I wanted to mention, like, you just have to just make sure that you have a life outside of the relationship, and that
Mhm.
not only that, but I mean, it just having a life outside of a relationship, it just helps you just to stay grounded, and also helps
Yes,
you
it
just
does.
it helps to keep the relationship dynamics healthy because absence makes the heart grow fonder. And if you're not
Mhm.
under each other all the time, you got your own things. When you finally do decide to come together, it just makes it that more interesting on both sides.
Right,
So,
right.
and
It
then
really
also, I'm
does.
just gonna say, like, you should not, don't be afraid to speak up. If you feel like a person is overwhelmingly or too clingy, or they're not spending enough time with you, you got to bring it up because that just creates a healthy relationship and allows you. It just opens up, makes you have open and honest communication, and that's just going to help you to have a better relationship. Because ultimately, when you meet somebody and you got that new car smell, you want to keep that, and the only way you're going to keep that is to make sure that you're supportive of each other, and that you guys and that you do other things in the relationship to make sure that when you come together you'll have an interest in each other.
Yes, I agree. And it's about balance, right? It's about that balance. And then at the same, doing things together when you said something just now that made me think about that. Sometimes when you're doing things together, it you can retrain your brain around the person that you're with. So doing activities together where you have to relinquish power and build
Mm,
trust, that is resetting your mind to be with somebody and not trying to micromanage the situation
ooh.
emotionally, physically, or otherwise. It's powerful. Do stuff together. I remember I had an ex who wanted to take taekwondo together, and I was like, no, because I felt like I was gonna have no power, no control. I said no. I was like, no. I
Wow, that would
should
have
have
been
done it.
awesome. So what about like rock climbing or skydiving? I like to do adventurous stuff.
Yeah,
But
that
if
would be
you have
cool.
somebody that wants to do something like that, trust me, most guys got like the adrenaline rush, so they want to do stuff like that. And
Yeah,
even I'd
and I
probably
should
be
have
scared
done it.
out of my wits, but that would just allow him to be in that hero mode to where he can make basically
Yes.
show you something. And I'm gonna say this real quick, man. As women, we gotta be willing to let a man teach us something. We have to be willing to
Oh
learn.
my
We don't know everything, man. It's okay to let somebody teach you something. Even I'm gonna tell you what,
God.
even if you already know it, let them teach you anyway, because you might learn something new in that moment.
I was just about to say that. He can always add to what you think you know. You know what I mean? Because everybody got a different method, right? Yes, and that is so important. I remember one time I met this guy and he was really cool and he was just like all into pickleball. And I was like, man, I never even heard of this. What is this?
Pickleball.
And he was like, oh, it's blowing up. And he just loved the fact that I just let him teach me all about pickleball. And it all I did was gain from it. You know what I'm saying? I was just
Mm,
like, I'm not gonna worry about looking stupid. I'm just gonna take it in. You know what I mean? And it was great.
pickleball. I ain't never even heard of no pickleball. What is it? What in the heck? Was it
Girl,
fun?
to me, it's like a mixture of like kind of like the ping pong concept, but with tennis. But like you're not using, I don't know, girl. It's like ping to me in my head, it's like ping pong and tennis. I don't know. I don't know how to even describe it. But and I
I'm not
said,
even gonna tell you what word came to mind when I tried to put ping pong and tennis together. What I'm gonna say is that you know what, I don't have nothing to say behind that. We're gonna wrap this show up. So you guys, I'm just ping pong and tennis. I ain't gonna even put that together. All right, you guys, that's a wrap for today's episode. And I mean, we really hope you guys found these topics to be helpful on your quest to crack the crazy girl code. And as always, we love hearing from our listeners. If you guys have any questions or topic that you would like for us to share on future episodes, please drop us a message or in the comments below. And if you enjoyed
yeah,
today's show, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and leave a
mhm,
review. Okay. Well, thank you
yeah.
guys for tuning in to Alpha Intuition Podcast. And until next time. Peace.